In the quiet town of Elephant Butte, New Mexico, something horrifying lurked behind an unassuming trailer. It wasn't just any trailer, it was a torture chamber designed for the most sinister purpose imaginable. Inside, authorities found a soundproofed space, equipped with whips, chains, pulleys, surgical tools, and a chilling wooden contraption that could only be described as a gynecological chair from hell. This was the home of David Parker Ray, a man whose depravity would earn him the nickname, the Toy Box Killer. But how did he manage to hide in plain sight for so long? On March 22, 1999, everything changed. A terrified woman named Cynthia Vigil ran screaming from Ray's trailer, completely naked, wearing only a metal collar and a chain padlocked around her neck. She had been held captive for 3 days, chained, tortured, and subjected to unspeakable horrors. But when Ray left the keys unattended, she saw her chance. With sheer desperation, she grabbed them, freed herself, and made a run for her life. Covered in blood, bruises, and deep psychological scars, Cynthia sprinted to a nearby mobile home, banging on the door. "Help me!" she screamed. A shocked resident immediately called 911, and within hours, police were at Ray's doorstep. What they found inside would haunt them forever. Investigators who stepped into Ray's trailer were not prepared for what awaited them. The walls were lined with chilling handwritten instructions detailing how to properly torture and manipulate victims. Chains and hooks dangled from the ceiling. On a table, they found a sinister cassette tape labeled Audio Instructions. When they played it, their blood ran cold. It was a recorded message, Ray's own welcome speech to his victims. In a monotone voice, he explained the rules to the women he had kidnapped. He described, in disturbing detail, the suffering they were about to endure. His words were methodical, almost rehearsed, as if he had done this dozens, if not hundreds, of times. David Parker Ray was no ordinary criminal. He was a master manipulator, a man who took careful steps to ensure that his victims could never escape or be believed. He drugged them with barbiturates to erase their memory. He meticulously cleaned his torture room to remove DNA evidence. And when he was done, he disposed of them. Some he killed. Others he brainwashed and released, making them believe that what had happened was just a horrible nightmare. Many victims didn't even know they had been kidnapped. To them, it was just lost time, unexplainable nightmares, and a deep sense of dread. Cynthia Vigil wasn't Ray's first victim, but she was the first to fight back and win. Despite her trauma, she gave police a detailed description of Ray, his trailer, and what he had done to her. She also revealed something that sent shivers down investigators' spines. Ray wasn't working alone. He had accomplices. His girlfriend, Cindy Hendy, helped lure victims into the torture chamber. Even more disturbing? His own daughter, Jessie Ray, was allegedly involved in finding women for him. And, if that wasn't enough, there were rumors that some of his victims had been fed to wild animals. For every Cynthia Vigil who survived, there were countless others who didn't. Investigators believe Ray could have killed at least 60 women, if not more. The problem? They could never find the bodies. Without physical remains, proving the murders was nearly impossible. Many of his suspected victims were sex workers, drifters, or women with troubled pasts, people less likely to be reported missing. And with the desert spanning thousands of miles, where would they even begin looking? Despite the lack of bodies, the evidence against Ray was overwhelming. Cynthia Vigil and 2 other surviving victims testified, painting a picture of a sadistic and methodical killer who treated women like objects. The prosecution laid out the extent of his crimes, playing chilling recordings and showing crime scene photos that made jurors visibly sick. But in an unexpected twist, David Parker Ray never faced a murder charge. With no physical proof of homicide, the court could only convict him for kidnapping and torture. Still, the sentence was severe, 224 years in prison. The world hoped Ray would rot behind bars, but fate had other plans. Just a year after his conviction, in 2002, he suffered a fatal heart attack in prison, Some saw it as divine justice, while others believed he took the easy way out. Cindy Hendy, his accomplice, struck a plea deal and served only 19 years before being released in 2019. Jessie Ray, his daughter, got off with a light sentence. Many believe that justice was never fully served. Even today, many mysteries remain unsolved. How many women did David Parker Ray actually kill? Where are the missing bodies? Did he have more accomplices? And most chillingly, are there still victims out there who don't even know they were his prey? The toy box killer may be dead, but his crimes continue to haunt investigators and families searching for their lost loved ones. Do you think Ray was responsible for more than 60 deaths? Should the justice system have done more? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into the world's most chilling crimes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Crime Chronicles. David Parker Ray wasn't just a sadistic killer. He was a man who planned every single detail of his crimes. His fascination with torture started in his teenage years when he began collecting books on serial killers, BDSM, and psychological manipulation. He even kept detailed journals of the pain thresholds of different women, noting what worked best to keep them alive, but suffering. His trailer wasn't just a place of torture, it was a laboratory of pain, where he experimented on his victims, testing how long they could endure different forms of agony. Every tool, every device, every action was designed for maximum suffering. Despite the massive amounts of evidence found in Ray's home, some crucial pieces were never recovered, particularly several videotapes that he recorded of his crimes. Investigators believe these tapes could hold proof of his murders, but they were never found. Where did they go? Some theorize he destroyed them before his arrest. Others believe his accomplices hid them, possibly to protect themselves. There's even speculation that some wealthy and powerful individuals may have been involved, and the tapes were buried to protect them. Whatever the case, these missing recordings could be the key to identifying unknown victims, giving closure to their families. But without them, the full scale of his crimes remains unknown. One of the most disturbing possibilities is that David Parker Ray had a specific dumping ground, the vast and desolate New Mexico desert. Some witnesses claimed he mentioned a lake where he disposed of bodies. Others believe he used the deep caves and abandoned mine shafts scattered throughout the area. Search efforts were launched, but the desert is endless, and bodies decompose quickly in the heat. Even with modern technology, the chances of finding his victims today are slim. The families of the missing may never get closure. Among all the terrifying evidence found in Ray's trailer, nothing was more chilling than the audio tape he played for his victims. On the tape, his voice is cold, emotionless, and methodical. He speaks as if he's welcoming a guest to a twisted game. He describes the pain they'll endure, the things he'll do to them, and, most disturbingly, how they will be trained to obey him. Some snippets of this audio were released to the public, and even seasoned FBI agents struggled to listen without feeling sick. One officer called it, "the most horrifying thing I've ever heard." David Parker Ray was a man who never showed remorse. In court, he barely reacted as victims described their suffering. When asked about his crimes, he shrugged and said, "I guess I just have a different way of having fun." Even on his deathbed, he never confessed. No apologies. No acknowledgement of the lives he destroyed. He took his secrets to the grave, leaving behind a mystery that may never be solved. The few women who escaped Ray's grasp were never the same. Cynthia Vigil, his most well-known survivor, has spoken about her struggle with nightmares, PTSD, and fear that she'll never be truly safe. Many of his other victims were so traumatized that they refused to speak publicly. Some even took their own lives, unable to cope with the psychological scars he left behind. His crimes didn't just destroy lives, they left generations of pain in their wake. One of the most terrifying questions that lingers is, was David Parker Ray truly one of a kind, or are there more predators like him out there? His ability to evade capture for so long proves how easy it can be for a skilled manipulator to stay hidden. And the fact that his crimes only came to light because of one woman's escape means that there could be others operating under the radar. Experts believe that cases like this show just how little we truly know about the darkest corners of the world. Since his death, several cold cases have been re-examined to determine if Ray was responsible. Some of these cases involve women who vanished in areas where he was known to operate. Detectives still receive tips and new leads, but without confessions or bodies, proving his involvement is almost impossible. There are still missing women who may have been his victims, but we may never know for sure. Today, David Parker Ray is a name that still sends chills down people's spines. His case is used in criminology classes as a textbook example of organized, sadistic crime. His trailer, once a place of horror, was eventually destroyed, but the memory of what happened inside will never be erased. The lesson from his case? Evil can wear a friendly face. And sometimes, the most horrifying monsters aren't the ones in movies. They're real people living next door. One of the biggest questions surrounding this case is, why wasn't David Parker Ray caught sooner? He had been suspected of violence since the 1980s. Several women came forward but weren't believed. Police dismissed claims, assuming that his victims were just making up stories. If authorities had acted sooner, how many lives could have been saved? How many women suffered because no one took them seriously? What do you think? Should the justice system have done more? Do you believe there are more undiscovered victims? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more shocking crime stories on Crime Chronicles.